Well, hello, everybody, and welcome to World Politics. I'm here with Mr. Mark Lee, who's right now not showing up except his icon. So we'll see who else is going to join us today. But we have a very interesting situation that's going on in Washington, D.C. As you guys may notice, that Matt Gaetz is out as being the Attorney General of the United States. So I thought that's going to be fairly interesting development. Not sure who Donald Trump's going to replace him with, but I think it's a pretty interesting development because he was nominated to become the next Attorney General of the United States. Unfortunately, he brought a lot of baggage with him. So we're going to bring in Rick Rosner from LA to see what he has to think about this new development. And world politics. You'll notice that our friend Matt Gaetz is not going to be Attorney General of the United States. He bowed out.
I was hoping it would play out more. I wanted to hear all the details, the nasty details of what caused him to withdraw. Apparently, he withdrew. CNN said we're in about 5 minutes. We're going to air a report with new details, and whatever they told him they knew caused him to withdraw, at least according to reports.
From what I understand, they found payments that were made to these ladies on a Venmo charge. In other words, all
like
of a sudden,
10 grand worth of payments. Yeah.
In other words, the thing is, he was denying that he was making payments, where he was mum about it. I don't know if he denied it. He just didn't say anything about these underage young ladies.
Well, no, they were, I think the two ladies were of age who observed him with an underage girl. They got a ton of money. The underage girl got like $300, according to, old details. Yeah, now maybe CNN found that she got paid more than that. I don't know.
Rick, you're into the whole space of the internet and different payment services. I know that I have used Cash App and PayPal, and in the past I've even heard of people, I think I might have used it once, used Venmo, but I've never heard people putting that kind of money into Venmo payments. It's usually like, a little couple of dollars here, a couple of dollars there in order for a service or something like that, like babysitting or something like that, or even sometimes getting people to do your groceries. But that seems like a lot of money for Venmo. So I know people may be trying to figure out what the heck a Venmo is.
Well, I don't think any of us pay for sex. Sex is expensive. I haven't priced it lately, but I would think
it's very expensive. All married people know that, Rick.
Yeah,
married, you know that. Okay.
Yeah, but you don't make the payments direct.
It's indirect, but it's expensive. Okay, that doesn't matter how you play the game. It's an expensive game to play.
Yeah, it's an expensive game to play.
The thing is, I think what happened with Gaetz. See, my problem is whether he was competent to do the job. In other words, let's say he was engaged in all that stuff. Well, is he competent? I mean, the thing is, he's a politician, and he's definitely not a top-tiered lawyer. I mean, I know a lot of top-tiered attorneys with major law firms that do constitutional law that would be better qualified. We even have one on our show who knows more about con law, Adam Lamparero. You'd have been more qualified. But this guy, he's a politician. He's not really an attorney.
I saw a documentary from a few years ago that focused on 4 young people in Congress, and Gaetz was one of them. And he actually came across pretty well. He's not a dumb guy, but
I agree, he's not a dumb guy. No,
but that's not sufficient. Like he is a pretty sleazy guy.
Yeah, I agree. He's not a dumb guy, but he's obviously pretty sleazy. But the word I heard on the streets were in Washington, D.C., which I'm not filming at, but it looks like is that the people that know labels, in other words, a lot of the senators and congressmen, remember, he created a lot of enemies when he threw out Kevin McCarthy, said, we will not confirm this guy. In other words, they just put down their foot. So he unfortunately has a lot of enemies, and the enemies started pumping him up, and they were from both parties. In other words, it's not like sometimes you have friends on both sides of the aisle, or sometimes you can have enemies on both sides of the aisle. He created a lot of enemies on both sides of the aisle by throwing out Kevin McCarthy. So because of that, he's out. Now, that was shocking, because I was going, what is Trump going to do with some of these people he's appointed that are really incompetent? The other one is RFK. Okay, my question isn't, will he be kicked out? My question with RFK is, when will he be kicked out? He is definitely the wrong person for Health and Human Services. The wrong choice. Now, if you said he's going to be Department of Interior, yeah, because he's an environmental attorney. If he's going to be EPA, yeah, because he's swam in that sewer for a long time.
Nick, but this is the second one that's been appointed that way, because he not only appointed RFK, but he also appointed Dr. Oz to run Medicare and Medicaid. So, I mean, what is Dr. Oz's qualifications to run that particular department? I mean,
Dr. Oz he's a medical doctor. I mean, the thing is, he's an MD. RFK's not an MD, he's a JD. It's like appointing me to be head of the hospital. What do I know about running a hospital?
I mean, Dr. Oz would be a better fit for Health and Human Services.
I would agree. I would agree. In other words, this is the Donald, not like I said, as a football coach, these are terrible solutions. They're terrible choices. Okay. And I don't know who's advising Donald. See, I don't think anybody advises Donald. Donald does everything his way, and he doesn't listen to anybody. Although on Celebrity Apprentice, on The Apprentice, it seemed like he was actually listening to people. So
the Celebrity Apprentice was scripted.
Well, this might be scripted. I mean, we have the lady from the wrestling match that is one of the co-founders.
McMahon. Well, I don't know if she may not be a bad choice. The thing is, if you look at what the McMahons did, they took this it was inherited, of course, because his dad created the role. It was McMahon's father, actually, Vince Sr. created it. And then they developed it to $1 billion plus enterprise. So I don't know if Linda is a bad choice or not. So in terms of a leader, she may not be a bad choice. It is clear that Donald is enthralled with celebrities. I mean, he's really, in other words, if he can get point when he can. I also think his good choices were Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, although I don't disagree with a lot of his politics, as being the cost cutters of Washington, D.C. It finally sends a message to people in Washington, especially the ingrained bureaucrats that I have to deal with.
So let's talk about, hold on, let's go back to Linda McMahon for a second.
Yeah, what's wrong?
All right, for one thing, she's 76 years old. She's been in business for decades.
Yeah.
She also headed the SBA, the Small Business Administration. I don't know exactly what that does but she had to be confirmed by the Senate. So she at least has some executive / administrative experience.
Yeah, and her and her husband did really well on the World Wrestling Federation.
Yeah, ex-husband, I think they're divorced now.
The
daughter is now running it, because they passed it over to the daughter, because it's now 3 generations of the McMahons that have had it. Because I
think they had to liquidate it because of accusations of sexual malfeasance and other stuff.
What really seems to be a common thread, which gets me, is the men can't keep it in their pants. The thing is,
that does seem to be a common thread. But even because he just released his memoir, but even Bill Clinton brought that up in his latest memoirs, because he even addressed the Monica Lewinsky situation and said that he hopes he can put it behind both of them so that they can move forward with their lives and everything. But he did release his memoirs, and he did talk about that. And he also said, which was an interesting thought, that he felt that after his wife Hillary and after Kamala had lost, that it would take a conservative woman to be president, but he didn't think we were far away from getting a conservative president or a conservative woman to be president. Maybe he's thinking Nikki Haley, maybe he's thinking somebody in that realm, but he did think that we might elect a woman president in our lifetime and maybe even in the next decade or two and everything like that. So as the four gentlemen on the show now, what is our thoughts? Do we think there will be a woman president, and will she be a conservative?
Eventually in Europe it's quite common. In other words, that the females would be leaders from Iceland to Finland to a lot of the countries here, Germany, England, Margaret Thatcher even. I mean, so it's very quite common. In the United States, though, it isn't, as we well know. The thing is, they've never had a woman in leadership, the highest leadership office, but they have here in Europe all over. So I think it's just a matter of time and the right person in the right situation.
Yeah, both Hillary and Kamala Harris had headwinds. Harris had the headwind of not coming up through a primary system, of basically being appointed with 3 months to go until the election, being part of an administration that was bad at messaging. So, maybe being a woman in America costs you 1% to 2% of the vote. It's that Ginger Rogers quote that, everything I did, I had to do backwards and in high heels, about dancing with, that Fred Astaire.
But see, the thing is, things change. Okay. Yeah. In other words, like when I was in law school, there were very few women in law school. The joke was, what's the difference between a female lawyer and garbage? And they say garbage gets taken out. I mean, it was like they were disparaged. And that was when I was in school, but that's 40 years ago. Today, the majority of the people in law school are females. Vast majority, almost like 60-40. In college, it's the same thing. So we're seeing change. And so ultimately, you're going to see changes at the top level.
So imagine what would have happened if that bullet that maybe grazed Trump, something hit Trump, made his ear bleed a little bit. Yeah. If it was a bullet, and if it had been a half inch, more, it may have forced him to drop out. And
Nikki Haley may have been president of the United States.
We may have had two female candidates. Yeah.
Or it'd either be Nikki Haley or it would be, Kamala Harris. So, like I said, eventually it's going to happen. I don't know why we're obsessed by when it's going to happen, because, like I said, here in Europe, it's very common. So it's not a big deal. It's a big deal in the United States because we well know the United States of America is obsessed with sex and sexism and obsessed with racism. So we're the country of sexist and racist. Over here, it's just not so much.
We had our first female vice president.
Pardon?
Harris was our first female vice president.
I know, but why are we obsessed with this? I mean, the reason the Democrats lost is because they're obsessed with sex and they're obsessed with race. And so they'll capture that. They'll slap white men in the face all the time. And so we're not going to vote for them. And they go, well, why don't they vote for us? Well, it's because you hate us. Why would we vote Democratic when the first thing out of your mouth is we hate white men? Okay, fine. Don't get our vote. Yeah.
Just to point out, I think you actually have it wrong on that, because if you look at the actual ads that were put out,
the vast majority of Americans agree.
No, let me point out. Let me explain what I'm talking about.
I gotta wash your hands.
Okay, you can wash your hands. So it's not that. Okay, so it's not that.
Wash your hands.
Okay, sit down.
And wash your hands.
Sit down.
And see.
So just to point out, what I'm explaining is that it's not that America is obsessed with race. The problem is there is a group of individuals who have held on to power, and based on our traditions and our history, they feel that power is slipping away. So therefore, that power leaving, or equality for them, is their power leaving. But equality for all is not that. So if you look at, for example, in this race, Kamala Harris didn't put up ads about her race at all. She didn't put up ads about talking about women this and women that, and I am going to be women. It wasn't about that. She was talking about women's rights. That's a different issue. That's not saying, hey, I'm obsessed with trying to slap white men in the face. No. Who ran those ads that you're speaking of? That was Donald Trump, and that was a Republican campaign. They pushed ads of culture war issues. They pushed ads of, hey, transgenderism. They pushed ads of, hey, all this other stuff. They don't like men. It's all about. So the culture war issue that got pushed wasn't because of the fact that, hey, we're going to obsess over it. It was used as a fear tactic to get people out. Hence the reason it's the same thing done with immigration about the white replacement theory, which has been a part of our history for a very long time. It's that whole Southern strategy that Nixon started out with back in the 60s and the 70s to grab onto those Dixiecrats and everybody else to move that actual vote block so they would win elections. So it wasn't, our obsession with race isn't what you're saying. Our obsession with race is a fear that this white group is losing their power. That's where our obsession comes from.
So off of this, somebody did a study of ads in the last 3 weeks leading up to the election. And Trump's ads, I guess, were something like 100% negative, attacking Harris. And then like Harris's ads were only like 40% or less negative, attacking Trump. And this allowed Trump to be rehabilitated in the minds of, I guess, a chunk of voters. And as has happened in previous elections, the undecideds broke heavily towards Trump.
Okay, so since you two guys don't listen, like I said,
No.
Listen rather than talk, Jacoby. Okay, here's what your friend Joe Biden said, and this offends white men. Oh, I happen to be one of them. He goes, I'm going to nominate a Supreme Court justice. It's going to be a black woman. Okay. So the thing is, white men are out. And then Gavin Newsom did the same thing. So we have two Democrats who say, I'm going to do a nomination. It's going to be a black woman.
So, okay, let me push back on that real quick.
And so the thing is, what you're doing, whether you guys know it or not, and obviously you don't, is what you're saying is all white men like myself should not be part of the Democratic Party.
Incorrect.
Thank you.
Incorrect.
Okay.
Nick, let me push back. Let me show you this real quick. Let me help you real quick.
This is your
So,
president.
no, Nick.
This is your governor, Rick. Your governor is the racist.
I don't know. It's a bad move to do that. Go ahead. Hold on. So go ahead and nominate a black person. Do not say that's what you're going to do.
Here's the question then. Here's your question, Nick. Counselor.
She's the most qualified.
Counselor, here's a question. Are black people qualified to be vice president?
Yes, of course.
So if we look at the history of the United States, when was the first ever black vice president?
I have no idea.
It was actually Kamala Harris. Now, in the history of the United States, when was the actual very first black president? That was President Obama. So out of 47 now individuals who were president, 47 individuals who were vice president, you only have one individual that was black on both sides. So when he said he was going to nominate these individuals, regardless of seeing the race card, what ended up happening is exactly what Nick said, is that people took offense to it. Oh man, they're slapping in the face of white people. Well, I mean, you've had 45, why can't there just be one? And if we're taking offense to one, what does that tell black people themselves? Hence the reason why there is an issue, because we're using race as a tool to attack one another, and actually, instead of what it should be, as a way to enhance our society, which is the way, honestly, Joe Biden was trying to do that with putting Ketanji Brown Jackson on the actual Supreme Court, due to the fact of her experiences and her understanding of actual society. So saying that, taking it one way is sure. It's the same thing if you look at Colin Kaepernick. When he knelt for police brutality, to stand up against police brutality. But what did Donald Trump do in the Republican Party? They ran it into the ground, saying that it was an attack on America. It was an attack on white people. So, hey, we're going to hate this individual. So every time anybody kneeled, it was an attack on white people. It was an attack on America. It wasn't the fact of what they were doing. They were actually expressing themselves, trying to stand up for a part of society that was being oppressed, being attacked.
Yeah, but they were bad at the
One more
Republicans
second.
are better at messaging. Like you need to game out your message.
Well, the
I'm
thing-
not saying that the Kaepernick's that actually, he got screwed over. He gave, he's a perfectly competent quarterback. He wasn't doing anything wrong. People don't know that standing for the national anthem, that whole deal. Athletes used to stay in the locker room until after the anthem. They were paid to come out by the military. It was that whole anthem thing is paid for by the U.S. military as some kind of recruiting tool, which is a crazy, weird thing that nobody knows.
Yeah, it's been a recruiting tool for a while and everything, but this is for Jacoby, because an interesting thing that I saw earlier, and it was actually one of those meme kind of things, is a lot of the African Americans that had, and maybe it'll change now that we have a AG opening, but a lot of those that had been thought that they were going to get jobs because they were supporting Donald Trump now are looking on the outside looking in. There's been no appointment for Tim Scott. There's been no appointment for Byron Donaldson. There's been no appointment for Herschel Walker. No appointment for Mark Robinson right here in North Carolina and everything. But a lot of folks that had come out in support of Trump that were out of the African-American camp, for lack of a better term. But now there's people that are pushing back going like, I thought y'all were promised a job. I don't see y'all having any job as of yet.
So with the African-American community, well, Donald Trump, honestly, again, he sold it. He sold what he could. And people bought it up, and it became a whole tribal politics. And when you're in tribal politics, you have people like a Mark Robinson, Jason Whitlock, Candace Owens, Thomas Sowell, all these individuals that gravitate to this side and will only support that side. Regardless of whatever you say, they're going to try and manipulate it and convince people that, oh my goodness, the Republican Party is so great to black people. And oh my goodness. It's okay. And so what ended up happening? Yes, he's not going to really. He didn't in his first stint in the White House. Were there any white people in his administration? Sure, he had Ben Carson in the cabinet, but were there any white people in his administration?
Black
Not that I remember.
Black people. You said white people.
But also Trump is chaotic. Like if somebody gets in his ear down at Mar-a-Lago, I guess is where he is right now, and says, you lost Matt Gaetz, maybe like throw, in a black guy. He might do it.
Because remember, Trump was the one who took, what did he say? What was reported from the different books and everything? He has a long history of racism. And I don't know why we kind of overlook it, but he has a very long history of, he took black dealers off of the tables because
he didn't like black people on the casino floor. He was okay with them in the background.
Again, so why is he going to put a black face in the front? He's not going to do that. He's never done that.
Because maybe
the N-word, and that was reported.
All right, so he's racist. On the other hand, he's a distracted, flaky guy. And if the right person just happens to get, now I don't know if there's anybody at Mar-a-Lago who's even thinking in those terms, like maybe throw in a black person. But if you catch him at the right time, he doesn't. I mean, the thing with Trump is his beliefs are not deeply held anyway.
We may find out eventually because actually we were given a chance, and I was reached out to by one of the public relations people that is connected with Donald Trump, and they have asked to bring their person that is a Trump supporter and was at Mar-a-Lago on the day that he got elected to come and speak to Pod TV. So I've already responded back to them that we'd love to have them on the network and to talk about what they know of Trump and everything. So we'll see if they are sincere in their efforts to bring this particular individual. I think he's with Own America network, as well as Patriot TV and a couple of other that are more conservative. So, we'll
So
see if they-
26 women have credibly accused Donald Trump of sexual assault or harassment or rape. None of them were black people. He's apparently, either he's only around white women, which is hard to believe. He was in New York, or he's only horny or feels like he needs to, have dominance over, pretty white ladies. So,
And think of how crazy this is. There are more people associated with rape in his cabinet than there are black people nominated.
That's a crazy thing. I did have a question for Sasha, and this is pivoting to a different conversation because we talked before about the court systems, and this comes back to world politics. And I know that earlier today, the international courts out of the UN has said that they want to arrest Netanyahu and some of the other leadership of Israel. Who's going to go there and arrest him? I mean, I don't see the U.S. going there to arrest him. So this seems to be one of those useless warrants in my mind. But there is a warrant that is out there for the arrest of Netanyahu and other members of the Israeli government. So please tell me, what is the international court thinking or not thinking in doing this particular action?
Well, in all practical terms, you can just dismiss it. It's the same thing that Israel will say that they will arrest the Prime Minister of England and Chancellor of Germany and just as well Macron from France, all of them together and bring them to justice and so on. This is nothing. It's just a political talk, trying to please some group of his electors. So I wouldn't pay much attention to this. There is something more interesting going on and much more dangerous. As you know, Ukraine attacked Russia with ATACMS missiles and Storm Shadow missiles from UK. The damage was quite substantial in both cases. So Russia today, they used the ballistic intercontinental missile on Ukraine without thermonuclear head, but inflicting very substantial damage. So now you can only guess, number one, how many of these missiles Russia amassed. They're huge, well over 20 meters long missiles. So how many of those they get? Putin himself said that it's experimental missile, but it doesn't mean much. Whatever he's saying is lying. He's only second to Trump in the Department of Lying. So that remains to be seen. And number two, is he going to use these missiles for bombardment of European capitals such as London, Paris, Berlin, others? Well, it will remain to be seen, but all that tells me that Trump's plan to end this war in 1 day, 3 days, a month, a year is extremely naive, and there are no mechanisms that he can actually do it.
We'll see. The thing is, it is actually a big deal what's going on over there in Russia.
It is.
And, in Ukraine. And the thing is, it wasn't brought up too much by the American press or part of the debates that took place. In other words, it's almost like, an empty promise. I'm going to stop it one day. Okay, you can say anything. Remember,
Don't take debates. On Monday, all markets, Dow Jones, S&P, and Nasdaq, they all went down substantially, and the running tape said that market went down because of Ukraine, Russia.
Yeah, right. Well, Wall Street doesn't
now we're talking about it, right?
Yeah, Wall Street does not like uncertainty, and unfortunately, uncertainty has been built in because of the situation over in Ukraine. Jacoby, you're
I was going to say that. I was going to point out that I think also the markets are struggling due to the fact of the whole tariff situation. From what I read, and Sasha, you can correct me if I'm wrong, A lot of these companies have actually kind of pulled back due to trying to figure out what the whole tariff situation Donald Trump is talking about, because there's a lot of uncertainty there.
I don't think we're going to know about the tariff situation until it takes place, number one. Number two, I think Trump's statements like, I'm going to end the war in one day, is like, I'm going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. Okay, he never built a wall. He built a tiny portion of a wall, and Mexico didn't pay anything for it. So, just because he says something doesn't mean it's true. It's just he blathers on. So what's going to happen in Ukraine really depends a lot on Putin and Zelensky. But what I want to know, and I still haven't figured it out, what do both parties gain by firing missiles at each other?
Okay, it's a good question. Okay, here is the situation, and here is the reason why Biden gave his approval for that. Russians gambled a big time to figure out how to advance their troops on Ukrainian front line as fast and as hard and as far as possible, because they are preparing to January 21st, when Trump will start his peace activities. And in the meantime, Russians went so far, and they will get not just 18 or 20% of Ukraine, but maybe 30% of Ukraine. That's already something. Now, there are some advancement a few months ago to Russian territory, namely Kursk, by Ukrainian forces. So now it's becoming interesting situation. So Russians are trying to advance. They're not really advancing because they're losing 1,500 to 2,000 people a day, and they're making advance of 10 meters a day. So this is what the Russians are advancing. Now, in Kursk, Russians cannot evict Ukrainian army, which is there. So now they brought North Korean. It's a foreign power which has nothing to do with this conflict, yet they brought. So they didn't bring some North Korean, for example, people who would enlist for money to fight. No, they brought real North Korean army with generals, with officers. Oh, by the way, today, for the first time, North Korean general was wounded in Ukraine. So they brought it all up, about 11,000, 12,000 people, and they have planned to bring very soon 100,000. Well, I don't believe that, because there is no logistics to bring 100,000 people and their weapons and so on from North Korea to Kursk region. So forget about that, but still they can bring maybe 20,000 or 30,000. So now that signaled to European leaders who faced Biden in Europe a few days ago, and they told him, you old idiots, act now, because by the time that Trump will try to make a peace, there will be no Ukraine, there will be no party to make peace with, because if Russia will unleash all its armaments and North Koreans and all these new missiles and so on, there will be nothing to talk about.
Is there any chance that that any of the North Koreans surrender to Ukraine? Because
they're surrendering. Yes, there was an interview on one of my programs. There was an interview with the captured North Korean soldiers. He spoke English some kind, and he's indicated that that's for his. He was heavily wounded. So he was saying that this is far the best outcome for him to be captured by Ukrainians, because at least he will get medical care, he will have decent food, and most importantly, he will be alive. Because, North Koreans, they're dog eaters, unlike Springfield in Ohio.
I know that the North Korea, living in North Korea sucks.
And in Kursk, there are not so many dogs, so they will not be able to survive. You see what's happening.
Well, I'm just saying that living in North Korea is pretty miserable for a lot of people. I'm thinking maybe if they got like I don't know how much they know, but if they knew they might want to like defect to Ukraine and
Who do you think asked North Korean if they want to go to Russia or Ukraine to fight? Do you think anybody would ask them? Or even if they would ask, do you say anybody say, no, I don't want to go? Well, immediately you get bullet in your head. So, of course, they can bring 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, provided that there will be a logistic to move so many people from North Korea to Ukrainian borderline, and there will be enough food to to supply them with. So this is an absolutely horrible situation. So Biden was actually forced to do that because European leaders, they were telling him that this is your last chance. And he did it. Actually, in my opinion, he helped Trump quite a bit. Because first, Trump, when he will start talking to Putin, and Putin is really scared of Ukrainians are using ATACMS and Storm Shadow and Scalp French missiles. So Trump will say, you know what, my friend, I can actually backward this permission, and Ukrainians will not use American. Do you like that, Vladimir? Vladimir says, yeah, please do it. Okay, I'll do it for you, Vladimir. And what are you going to do for me, Donald? Tell me, I'm all here. I'd like to listen to you. Don't stop, keep talking. And I'm curious what Putin has on the table to offer to Trump. What? I have no idea what Putin can offer. Really.
I can tell you one thing that people can offer, and I've wondered if Nick's got any property, and I meant to get into this on World Edition, but apparently Texas is offering a parcel of rural ranch land along the U.S.-Mexico border to use as a staging area for that potential mass deportation that Donald Trump has been talking about. So the property, which Texas originally purchased last month, is located in rural Starr County in the Rio Grande Valley, and the Republican Don Buckingham, the Texas Land Commissioner, apparently sent a letter last week, matter of fact, last week on this day and everything, extending the offer, and apparently it's being considered. So I just want to know if you've got any land, Nick, that you want to give them, because apparently this property has no paved roads and sits in a county with one public hospital and limited local resources. But Buckingham is stressing its location, and I want to say it's multiple thousands of acres. So that might be where one of these internment camps is going to be based at and everything. So you got any land, Nick, that you're going to give to Trump and everything if he's going to do this border? Because apparently Texas has got some land that they're ready to give away.
No, I don't. But I can see that Texas will work with the federal government when it comes to the immigration issue. But I disagree with just mass deportations. I think that's incredibly stupid, and it's economically unsound. I do believe that you assess a civil fine. I start at 10 grand. And then if they don't pay the civil fine, then you deport them. If they do pay the civil fine, you give them a visa and say, okay, you know, we're going to give you a pathway to citizenship provided you don't have any criminal record. And, you know, keep it simple and move on. First of all, the United States needs the money. We're broke. People don't realize this is.
Nick, a good question. So people, could they apply for some kind of not student loan, but immigration loan, and then repay it, of course,
Yeah,
right?
right. Yeah, of course, Sasha. I mean, the thing is, we're a nation of debt. I mean, you know, the thing is, and there's credit card companies everywhere that lend them money. They'll lend them 10 grand. A lot of them, actually, they have the 10,000, you know. So the thing is, some of them, they spent that much just to get to the border. So the thing is, the $10,000 goes into the American coffers. So we make money, which is good. You end up with somebody that doesn't have a criminal record. In other words, do a criminal background check. Okay, they're cool.
Well, with criminal record, they can pay $20,000, not a big deal. So
What?
they will pay, with criminal records, those will pay $20,000.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But see, now you make it a profit center. Deportation costs money. Okay, no matter how you look at it, it's expensive to round people up and take them out of the country. Okay, don't go that direction. Instead, make it a profit center. Take their money, let them go back to work, give them a visa, and let's move on, guys.
why don't you do the auction? Okay, here is a starting price, $10,000. Who will pay more? Okay, I can pay 10.5. I can pay 12.5. I'll pay 25,000. Okay, so yours.
Sasha,
Got it.
I would go for that. Now, I know a little bit about it since I'm getting my visa here in Spain, and they have the golden visa. They're eliminating it, though, by the way. The golden visa, if you buy a home for 500 grand or you stick 500,000 in their bank, they will give you a visa for Spain. They're eliminating it because too many Chinese are coming in with the golden visa. All right. It's a pay-to-play market in immigration. It's been that way everywhere except the stupid United States of America. So
But speaking, hold on a second. But
let's pay to play. And I like the idea of the auction. Hey, you want to step
the pay to play is interesting. But Nick, along those same lines, and I want to toss this to Sasha and everything, because apparently Mexico's president acknowledged Thursday that Canada is concerned about reports of a Chinese company's plan to build an auto plant in Mexico. But she said, hold on, don't worry, it doesn't exist. So President Claudia Sheinbaum said she talked recently to Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, and that he assured her he did not support excluding Mexico from the U.S.-Mexico-Canada trade agreement. So apparently there's some talk about this whole notion of us having a trade agreement here in Mexico. So I wonder how Donald's going to play in this, because on Wednesday.
Well, we have a really good trade relationship with him. Yeah, Jacoby's itching to jump in.
Yeah. Can we not act like there's a pay to? I mean, why are we acting like there's not already a pay to play in the U.S.? Why? There it is.
Deport people regardless of asking.
I mean, but again, there is a pay to play situation in the U.S. already. And the thing is, what we're complaining about are those individuals that really we're demonizing a very select few people. I'm not
demonizing anyone. I just want their
when
money.
the major part of the immigration issue is still dealing with people who overstay their visas. And then if we look at the crime rate, if we look at the crime rates from individuals, the crime rates from undocumented individuals are half of what they are of actually native-born Americans and even documented individuals. So if we're trying, and then if we talk about the money and how you're talking about, oh, well, make them pay $10,000, that's not going to help, because already they're putting money into the tax system already, and they're not getting anything back from taxes. So they're paying into taxes and not getting anything back from taxes. So the money they're already paying into. So in terms of the undocumented situation, the actual situation, you do have to pay money to actually get into the U.S.
And we do have a golden visa. It's called the U.S. It's called the EB-5 Investor Visa, and you can, if you invest your money in a targeted employment area, which is, I don't know, some, enterprise zone, it's 800 grand. If you want to invest in a non-enterprise zone, it's 1,050,000.
Okay, good. So the U.S. has a golden visa. What we don't have is a fining program for people that have overstayed their visas.
No, but the last time we set up internment camps was in 1942 or 43, and it ended up being a shameful chapter when we.
It depends. Remember, that whole chapter was actually affirmed by Korematsu versus the United States. So the Supreme Court actually agreed on the internment camp. And even though the libs disagree with it, I can tell you a lot of people in World War II agreed with it because of there was a real threat back then.
Are we going back?
You guys don't recognize it because you weren't World War II.
Well, Nick, you know how we talked about at the beginning of the show, how we talked about how, well, you're not listening to the individuals that voted for Trump and I tried to point out to you how there was only one black individual here, and so the individuals that were for those Japanese internment camps weren't Japanese Americans and were not affected. There were many white people during that time that really were pushing for those internment camps. And who's pushing for the internment camps now? So again, let's not jump into our deepest, darkest angels, and let's start looking for solutions, because these internment camps, as you started off, they're horrible. They wouldn't work.
I'm not for the internment camps. I just want the people that skip the line to pay the fine.
And
okay?
that
if you don't pay the fine, then I agree with Donald. Goodbye. We don't.
There are solutions there, but mass deportation isn't a solution.
What is wrong with that, Jacoby? See, I don't know why you're.
We just talked about it.
If I don't pay my attorney's fees here in Spain, if I don't pay the government, which I've done already to get my visa, you know what they do to me, Jacoby? Listen carefully. They deport me. Hello. So I actually, being responsible, had a return ticket to the United States. I do not get to skip the line. Have you ever been in a line before where some Jack idiot
get all that.
jumps in front of you and says,
Rick, I'll let you go first because
come in the line
it looks like you want to add something in.
Okay? No. It's what they call wrong. I hate to tell you, it is
all that.
wrong to skip the line. It is
I get all
wrong
that.
to violate
But
the law.
Here
of
is a
the other
problem.
country.
Here's a problem logistically, Nick. Also, here's a problem. Here's a problem with your idea of this whole mass deportation being a solution.
No,
So,
Nick
for
just said it's not a solution.
I
Mass.
don't say it was a solution.
Okay.
I'm not for mass deportation. I'm saying that you pay the fine. If you did something wrong, there's a consequence.
People are okay with trying to come up with solutions dealing with consequences around those individuals who jump the line. So the point being, we're in a situation where we're dealing with mass deportation. As I stated, and as you agreed, it's not a solution. It's only going to create massive problems economically. It's going to create massive problems socially. It's going to create massive jail problems due to the fact that
we're on the same page. But Jacoby, are you going to give these people who skip the line a free pass?
no, actually no.
Good. We're on the same. We're going.
So again, like I said, there are solutions that we agree on, but we get into these ideological warfare camps.
We're heading in the right direction. You just said you're not giving a free pass. Okay, I like that. Now, what is the punishment, counselor?
Here's the problem. Let's see if you're able to deport, let's see, 5,000 a week. But the 10,000 are crossing the border and say half of them are illegals and so on. So what do you solve? You don't solve nothing. You have
Actually, there is a solution.
mental institution. That's what you want to do. Hold on, Joel. What you do first, you have to cross the border, control the border, and make sure that not 5,000, not 5 people, no one, zero, can cross the border to United States. You do so. You start with that. So now all these legals, illegals, and whoever they are, now they are inside of the United States, and you can slowly hunt them down, illegal criminals and all stuff, one by one, and interrogate them, torture them, and then kick them out of the country. Maybe you can pay $20,000. That's okay. So you pay 10 now and 10 within the next 2 years. Okay.
I just want to know what the torture method is. Because torture
I got
sounds
the solution.
really
I got a solution for you, but Rick, go ahead.
Well, none of these solutions are workable because you can't get Congress to agree on any of this.
I agree with that.
Oh, no, wait, Rick, that's changed. That's when you had a Democratic
Incorrect.
controlled Congress and you had a Republican controlled Senate. Now the Republicans control everything. So because the Republicans control everything, they should be able to get this done.
No,
Yeah, but I can't believe that the MAGA Republicans would come up with a scheme that lets people stay for money.
But you have to have faith that
No.
maybe they will come up with something that makes sense because the Democrats haven't come up with anything that made sense for
so
decades.
Nick, you're wrong. Rick is right. Nothing is going to happen because
you guys lost.
Let me tell you why. No. Listen, let me tell you why.
Okay, here's your 4-letter word of the day.
Let me
Lost.
explain.
You guys
It's
lost.
not even about that. It's
You
not even
lost
about that, Nick.
everything. You lost
Nick,
the
let me
Senate.
explain.
You lost the
Because
Congress.
let me
You lost the
explain.
president.
Nick,
You lost the
let me-
vice president.
Nick, we get that. You're saying the same thing. But what I'm trying to tell you is that what Rick is saying is correct. He's spot on with it. Because what the Republicans would offer in Congress, if it doesn't go as far as mass deportations and everything else that Donald Trump wants, Donald Trump has the final say. He controls that party at this moment. it will sit there and get stalled because it will not reach to that nth degree that Donald Trump is asking for. And if it doesn't happen in this 2 years, guess what? It's going to roll over, and then you're going to have other individuals come into play. So what Rick is saying is correct. It has nothing to do with Democrat, nothing to do with that.
There is one chance to make it work. Now, I don't know that Trump can function sexually anymore. He's 78, but like if you could get some, and I don't think he's ever banged anybody with a political agenda. But if you could get somebody in there to work his junk and whisper in his ear, mass deportation is going to cost too much. It's not going to work. Let's just squeeze these people for money. Maybe, but that just seems very unlikely.
Yeah, but a solution.
If there is a price $20,000, of which 10 go to U.S. Treasury and 10 go to Trump direct account, he will go for it.
But a solution, Nick, what you're talking about, truthfully, again, a solution would be, and Sasha, the idea that we're going to have it, the idea that closing it down to nobody crossing is never going to happen because of the actual borders length, distance. It's logistically impossible. But what you can do, hold on, I was going to get to what you can do real quick. What you can do is fix the flow, because what you can do, there's a backlog of at least 5 to 10 years. If we actually increase the actual, again, the legal side of things to start processing and pushing that process through. On top of that, send individuals to these actual areas where they're coming from, figure out better situations for those individuals, and then start investing money, companies into those areas, because then that begins to stem that flow. Now you don't have so many people going. In terms of the individuals here that are already going through this process, because you've increased the money there to actually start going through these cases, then you create, again, Nick, what you're talking about, your fine. You have a fine built into a system where they pay off that fine over a particular amount of time. So then you have a fine system. You have actually a system where you have a pathway, legitimate pathway for people to follow through, and actually a reason for people to stay where they are, which they're leaving from.
Jito, I would like to remind you, a few months ago, there was a scheme that Russians brought some Syrians and some other garbage to border of Poland from Belarus. So they could cross to Poland, and from Poland they could go to any European countries. Guess what? Poland said that the Poland is for Poles only. They put well-armed guards and says that whoever will cross the border, he will be killed instantly, no question asked. You first shoot, then ask the question. No one crossed the border, so they had to bust these people down back to Syria and fly them whoever they came from. No one person crossed the border. That's how you would bring over Polish soldiers on the border. Polish soldiers.
I just came up with a genius idea. Trump and Elon Musk are best friends right now. Elon Musk forms the Border Company. It's a company that runs our southern border for $20 billion. Elon Musk takes over our border, and he uses all his high-tech Starlink-y, drone-y stuff to really shut down the border. And also ask Musk to catch and kick out all the illegal immigrants as well, and also to help to run Treasury and Transportation Department, everything else. Try it. Why not?
Real quick, Sasha, you said that Russia put up a whole bunch of people, military people, across the Polish border. How long is that border?
Polish border with Belarus should be about 1,000 kilometers.
Yeah, that's pretty big.
Incorrect. It's 232 kilometers. How long is the border between Mexico and the U.S.?
1,954 miles.
So you're saying that you're going to be able to
but see, the thing is,
No, you bring 10 as many time people. You bring 10 people as many times.
You're going to need the full U.S. military across the border because that's a.
I need to bring you guys back to what we call basic. Now listen to this, Toby. Basic money grubbing principles. Okay. The thing is, basic money grubbing principles. You look at supply demand. There's demand to come into the United States. I agree. There's a supply. We got a big country. We can fill up a lot of people. We need to start charging them as they come in. That's all. I don't want to have I don't want as a taxpayer to spend my hard-earned money sending administrative law judges to let these people in.
They
No.
already
What I
paid.
want to do is to hire people and make them pay to
They-
come in.
All right, I just came up with another solution. When you catch people crossing the border, you give them a uniform and you turn them around and you say, you get to stay if you turn away 100 people.
Actually, here's one for you. Here's one for you. To make,
Well, can I
this
tell you
is
what
the
happened in
money grubbing
Venice, Italy? You guys probably don't know. Venice is right up the street from where I live. And years ago, they had a problem. You know what it was? Too many turistas, too many tourists coming in. But if you ever go to Venice, there's a little small sliver of land to get through Venice Mestre. And I thought, why don't they close it up and start charging people? And you know what they did? They actually did that. They closed Venice and they charged people to go into Venice. But makes sense.
How
United
about
States, we have a big border. What's wrong with charging these people to get in? If you want to go to Disney World, you got to pay, and then you got to go to Disney World.
Okay,
If
just
you
to point
don't
out,
pay, guess what? Your butt's deported
Nick,
out of Disney World.
just to point
Well,
out,
well,
you
keep it
actually
simple.
do pay. You do actually pay. So there is money that is a part of the transaction, especially if you're trying to become a citizen or actually trying to do any of the visa stuff. But either way, getting back to a money grubbing solution for you, here's
Basic
one for
money
you,
grubbing
Nick.
principles. Remember
Here's
that.
a good money
Remember,
grubbing
I'm trying to help you become a
You
future
brought up-
capitalist of
Yeah,
America.
you brought up Disney World. You brought up all these
Disney World, yeah.
places. Why not do this? And actually, I think it was Rick that said, give them a uniform. How about this? How about we take the southern border, because for some odd reason, that's the only border that we focus on. We take the southern border, those individuals that cross, we create a full-blown town across the border based off of the individuals that come across. We create businesses and opportunities. Those individuals stop right there. It becomes a theme park. Instead of south of the border being in between North Carolina and South Carolina, let's go ahead and make the southern border a true border theme park and town, to where those individuals that come across, if you're going to stay there, you can stay there, you can work there, you can do whatever. But we're already making money off of that. And then you have a whole theme park based around the U.S.
All right,
Mexico
I have
border.
something similar. Like, Nick, you want a one-time charge of $10,000. That's not how the mafia works. You go with the Godfather model, where you're constantly getting a taste. You can stay in America, but there's an extra 8-10% tax on what you make here, just in perpetuity. Just you're in hock to us.
I would agree. I would agree with that. The thing is, or like Sasha said, have a reverse auction. If you want us to go to the front of the line, you just pay more.
No, they're not doing
And
auction.
your visa comes up faster. So there's different ways to do it, as long as you realize this.
I would go even
Real quick.
Let's Sasha say.
I was just going to say, speaking from the black contingent, let's stay away from
At one point, we discussed the money that requires to have security at the airports, for example, because it all costs money. Somebody has to pay for security. So what you do, you divide, for example, when entering the airport, when you just came out of the plane, so you're entering the airport facilities. So you split it in two. In one, you have bandits running around and robbing people and so on. And another one where you pay only $50, and it's nice. It's a 5-star. Nice restaurants, nice rooms where you can change, you can take shower and so on. And that's very simple. So you go pay $50 and you stay in fantastic facilities.
Yeah,
And another one.
And so this is where I disagree with the MAGA people. They want to make America great again. I don't want to make America great again. I want to make America rich again. And the way to do it is to make sure the money comes this way, not go that way. And the immigration is a great opportunity to bring money in the door. You got people who want to come here. Beautiful, let them pay.
And they are, again, they are paying.
What?
They're paying money.
No, pay more. Pay more.
Oh, by the way, today Nvidia for the first time ever crossed $150 a share. It didn't stay there, unfortunately, but it did touch 152 was day's high.
Wait, in our last 30 seconds, my buddy and I were talking with Chat GPT last night, because you can kind of you type in your questions, and we asked, is AI going to start acting like, and that it has emotions in the near future? And the AI said, yeah, pretty soon. That both AI is being programmed to have emotions, and it will accidentally start, behaving as if it has emotions. So AI is getting, creepier.
I'm getting emotional about that, but with that, we got to go because we're at PR. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.